Welcome to What's Your Opinion podcast. Today's topic is going to be what would happen if marijuana was legalized nationally. Kind of a situation if it was just as legal as alcohol. You know, right now we do have a few states that are recreational. We got Washington, Oregon, California, Nevada, Colorado, Alaska, Vermont, Maine, and Massachusetts, and also Washington, D.C., you know, right there by the Capitol. You can go buy some weed, and it's totally legal.
Slowly but surely.
Yeah, it's happening.
It's happening. Real quick, we're going to go over the stuff that's new with the podcast. I'm actually going to let you take it right back over because you've taken a break from work, so you know what's new with the podcast. We're on iTunes now.
Yep, we got accepted to iTunes. We're out for Google Play and Spotify still. For us to get on iHeartRadio, we got to get a couple more episodes out there, so that is soon to be submitted once we get a few more out there. What else? We picked up a couple mic arms. You'll probably notice, and we noticed, that the sound is a whole lot better.
You can probably hear me a lot better now. So.
We no longer have the mic sitting on the table on a little tripod. They are now extended out and right in front of our face with some new pop filters. So that's also a good improvement that we have. We're also on YouTube. That's another place you can stream it from. We're on Stitcher and Spreaker as well. And big one, iTunes.
Heck yeah. And you did say something about Spotify, right?
We're not
soon
on Spotify.
To be.
Yes,
soon to be.
Soon, as long as we get accepted, we will be on Spotify.
Awesome. Also, we are on Twitter and Facebook, so please go like us, follow us, all that stuff. Your support's really going to help us out, and plus, you can leave some comments to give us future topics and your thoughts on the episodes that we do. So please go ahead and do that. So back to the main topic for today, recreational use of marijuana throughout the entire nation. Obviously, it's going to happen soon. So what we're going to start with is when marijuana was actually made illegal. Now, obviously, marijuana has a huge history. In 1970, there was a Controlled Substance Act under Lyndon B. Johnson, and that's when marijuana was made a Schedule I drug. That was actually when drugs were put into different schedules, different classifications on, how dangerous they are. I guess you could say dangerous, but we mean by, how people can get addicted to them and if they have no medicinal purposes. Now, obviously, as I said, there's 5 schedules. Schedule 1 being considered the most dangerous / the worst. Marijuana is a Schedule 1 drug.
Also in that Schedule 1 list is going to be LSD, heroin, ecstasy, and peyote. Like Keith was saying, there's substances and chemicals that are defined as drugs with no acceptance for medical use and have a high potential for abuse. And then as you start going down the list, Schedule 2 drugs, basically it's the same thing. These are going to include Dilaudid, Vicodin, Adderall, Ritalin, Oxycontin. I mean, a lot of these I would consider just as bad as heroin because a lot of people start with these pills and they move right on to heroin. Schedule 3, pretty basic, anabolic steroids, testosterone boosters, ketamine, and Tylenol with codeine. A lot of us get the Tylenol with codeine when we get our wisdom teeth taken out. It's fun.
Yeah, for sure. Something that I find unbelievable, though, is the fact that marijuana is considered worse than all of the drugs you just stated.
Yeah.
That's absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah, way worse, which is crazy.
So
no one's ever died from it. People die from ecstasy and heroin and
all the time.
Regular pills that get prescribed by doctors all the time.
Now, I got, what is it? I got Percocet when I was, I got my wisdom teeth removed. Mm-hmm. So I got Percocet, and I remember having the time of my life in high school.
Oh, yeah.
And I totally see why those are addictive.
Oh, yeah.
Because I used to have those, while I was in school. I remember in foods class, and I was like, oh, my God. I'm about to make the best crepes that this school has ever seen.
I'm going to tear up these crepes.
For sure.
For me, it was, I was getting high, and I was making lemon chicken. Mm-hmm. That shit was great.
So
in foods class, oh, my God.
That's clearly, in my opinion, way worse than weed. Now, unfortunately, for this topic, I'm going to be kind of representing, the counter argument to why it should be legalized. Because obviously, this is a show about both sides and both opinions. And believe it or not, there still are people out there that are against the legalization of marijuana. One
of the people that we all know of that's definitely against the legalization of marijuana, and he's kind of spearheading the act, is Jeff Sessions. He's going to be our attorney general right now. And some of his quotes, "Good people don't smoke marijuana. A life-wrecking dependency." And he also claims that it is slightly less awful than heroin. That's mind-blowing to me. I've never seen marijuana destroy someone's family. Personal thing for me, my dad was addicted to pills for a long time while I was growing up. This guy would hit the emergency rooms and blow all the money he had getting all the pills he could. So if you go to the emergency room, I don't know if it's changed, but when I was growing up, it was you go in, my back hurts, sit for a while. Why can't I get seen? I need to get seen. And then they just give him a prescription so he'd walk away. You can go hit like 3 or 4 emergency rooms, you know. Eventually, parents got divorced, and now he's somewhere out in Tennessee, stuck on heroin. It's a lot cheaper.
My family, I think I know somebody that actually went to the emergency room. They hurt themselves on purpose to go get pain meds. Mm-hmm. Like they cut themselves in the arm. And they were my cousin, actually. He committed suicide. I always knew him as a young kid, and I would ask him what happened to his arm. Mm-hmm. And, you know, after he died and after I, got way older, my mom finally told me, because I just was like, what happened to his arm? Just asking questions about him. Yeah. And she flat out told me, she was like, well, he hurt himself so that he can go to the emergency room and get pain meds.
Happens all the time.
I think that's pretty common in the United States that people do that. And that's completely mind-blowing to me that that's considered less than marijuana in terms of safety and dangerousness and stuff like that. So there's this committee of people in the United States called CALM, oddly enough. They're called CALM, but they're against marijuana. Now, it stands for Citizens Against Legalization of Marijuana. Now, I am definitely picturing the most strict, stuck-up people in this committee.
They got that C-word mom haircut.
You know yeah. Can I speak to your manager? Definitely those people. Now, again, people are open up to their, are allowed to have their own opinions. So I'm not judging, but I'm sorry, but that's what I picture. Now, they have their own website if you want to go see it. It's called calmca.org, so calmca.org. Now, there they have a lot of stuff about marijuana. Now, again, they have their own statistics. I've done a lot of research on this, and their statistics and facts kind of go against a lot of this other stuff that I find online. So I don't know at this point.
What are some of their stats and facts?
So we've got... So, obviously, they got the stuff saying marijuana is 10 to 40 times stronger than it was 40 years ago. Now, that I actually do believe.
Yeah.
I do believe that that's 100% true.
The percentages that are coming out these days are much, much higher.
Ridiculous.
You get the concentrates, the dabs, Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, they're like 80, 90% THC, which is insane. But the process of which you make it, all you're taking out is all the THC. And you're taking, an ounce of bud, doing your thing, and then you get your wax, shatter, whatever type you make, but it is highly, highly concentrated. Also, when you make your candies, your brownies, stuff like that, they're getting better at making these edibles. You buy a brownie, and it's like 300 milligrams of THC. In California, I can't speak for the other states, but I know in California, you're no longer allowed to buy an edible that's over 100 milligrams. Because they did see, no one needs to get this high. And not too many people are like, what? This is crazy. No one's really that upset about them not being able to buy an edible that has a 500 or 300 milligram cap on it.
Leave it to those kinds of people to just ruin it for the rest of us. I kind of agree. Nobody needs to get that high. This is also saying that in the 1970s, THC concentration, that people were getting out of it is 2%. And then nowadays it's like you said, 80, 90%.
Well, that's THC. For that.
For dabs, yeah.
Yeah. But for bud, I mean, decent bud these days, even that's 15% and up, which is still way, way higher.
Yeah. No, I don't have a problem. I still don't have a problem with that. I can see people's arguments better when they're talking about when they include dabs and stuff like that. I could kind of see their view a little bit better, even though it still doesn't really bother me because there's still no violence or anything that I've witnessed it, on the news or anything like that. The worst that's going to happen with these people is, if they are thinking about violence, they're going to smoke the dabs or whatever, and they're going to sit on their couch.
They're going to fall asleep.
They're not going to do anything. They're not going to do anything that's really that violent.
I tried them,
Yeah.
Dude, I wasn't doing anything.
Really?
I wasn't doing anything.
I've never had experience with that before. Yeah. Now, when I saw videos of people doing that, who was it? Some really famous guy or celebrity who's known for smoking. Was it
Wiz Khalifa?
No, it wasn't Wiz. It was
Snoop Dogg.
Cheech? Who's Cheech?
Yeah, Cheech from Cheech and Chong.
Yeah, Cheech. So I saw a video of him doing dabs, and he was like, "Whoa, man! Yeah, that's a little bit too strong for me."
It'll knock you on your ass.
Now that's what's unbelievable to me is people who've been smoking, for over half their life are saying that dabs are way too strong for, or too serious for them. Other stuff on Calm, by the way, they're saying that the majority of the problems is with, teenagers and younger people. So it says 1 in 6 teens who try marijuana will become addicted. Define addiction to marijuana, though. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's a lot different than addiction to cigarettes, because that's like a physical addiction. You know what I mean?
I would say the addiction is different per person.
Gotcha.
The dependency on anything is going to be different per person. However, for me to quit dipping and smoking, I had a huge problem giving up cigarettes and dip. When it came down to me getting a job, it was like, okay, I need a job. I need to make money. Yeah, I didn't want to give it up, but it was, and I've seen plenty of people have to get up in their lives. And these were friends that I'd smoked with all the time.
Now, here's some crazy things that I'm reading right now. Like I said, 1 in 6 teens who try marijuana will become addicted, right? There's another statistic that I found that says getting addicted to weed or marijuana is very unlikely. 9% of people who try marijuana will get dependent on it. That is from the National Institute of Drug Abuse. Mm-hmm. So I'm guessing that's a different statistic that this Calm or Citizens Against Legalizing Marijuana is using. Is they're talking about just teens, whereas this is talking about everybody.
Well, one thing I found was teens in Washington from 2010 to 2016, it actually showed a lower rate. Like, they went down 3% less teens used from 2010 to 2016. However, in Colorado, from that time frame, it only went down 0.8%. So, I mean, it's not very much, but they're still showing a lower rate. I know me personally, my parents didn't care about me drinking when I was younger. Going through college, I didn't really drink. It was more of a weird thing to see me drinking.
I think at that point, it's kind of like, it's wrong, and that's what's appealing to. You know what I mean? Like, it's considered illegal, or it's illegal, it's bad. Mm-hmm. Let's do it type thing. Let's be freaking, screw the man, fight the power type thing.
We're fighting mom and dad.
But if it was completely legal, then people would probably be less inclined to, that's just in my opinion. So, let me delve a little bit more into these counter arguments for you, and let's see what we can talk about. So, first things first, it's a gateway drug. So that's why it shouldn't be legalized. It's a gateway drug. It's going to lead people to go, do heroin, do way worse stuff, which is really funny because the stuff that they say it's going to make you go do is technically, according to the DEA, worse. Or like,
it's better.
It's better.
It's better. Yeah.
It's going to lead you on to Schedule 2 drugs, which is,
That's better than a Schedule 1.
That's ridiculous. I just realized that just now. Like, they're saying it's going to lead you on to worse drugs, but the drugs that they're saying is going to lead you on to are on healthier, easier schedules. Yeah. I mean, lighter schedules or whatever. That's funny. Again, I'm just representing this counter-argument side, and I don't agree with that counter-argument. Yeah. I don't think it's a gateway drug. I really don't, because all the people that I know, all the friends that I have who smoked weed in high school, a lot of them just quit. When they finished college and they
went on to work and
stuff, they stopped. Mm-hmm. There was no appeal for them anymore.
I know a lot of people that did the same thing. A lot of those people, they tried other stuff and they realized, nah, didn't really like it, and they just kept smoking weed.
Yeah.
Until they no longer could, or some of them still smoke.
Now, the people that I do know that were like moving on from weed to crazy harder drugs, those are like special cases of people, in my opinion. Like, they were going through really rough times in their life, and it wasn't even like they moved on from weed to that. It's like they were doing them both at the same time.
They just added it to them.
They just added it, you know what I mean? So that's the first counter argument we got. If anybody has any comments about that, they really do think it's a gateway drug, please leave what you think. Next we got, it's addictive as heroin, and it will cause more new people to smoke weed rather than, cater to the existing smokers.
Now, is that just if it gets legalized recreationally, or as of right now?
If it gets legalized recreationally. Now, I don't agree that it's addictive. It's as addictive as heroin. It's definitely not.
Like, I mean, statistics if you talk to Jeff Sessions, he'll say it's just a little less worse than heroin.
Well, I don't think he's that smart. He's the Attorney General of the United States.
There's a lot of people rallying against him. Have you ever known anyone to completely lose it over what someone might call an addiction to just weed?
No, I've never known anybody to, and I do believe that it can be addictive, but I think it's addictive in a way that's different than most people are looking at it. Like I said, cigarettes.
You're not going to have withdrawals.
Yeah,
it doesn't have withdrawal-like symptoms. The only thing that really changes after you stop, you're going to get crazy dreams. And that's because you don't enter the full cycle of REM sleep when you smoke. A lot of us would smoke before we went to bed and stuff. I know I used to do that.
Yeah.
It was great. I slept great. But you don't enter that full cycle. So when you quit, you'll get some bananas dreams because you're finally entering that full cycle again.
But personally, no. I don't know anybody who has been so dependent on it that they lose their mind or anything like
or just even like lose things in life.
Yeah, definitely not. People aren't going to go and like sell their TV so they could buy some weed. You know what I mean?
That's not going to happen.
People will do that for heroin and other stuff, but I've never known anybody to sell, again, I'm sure there's people out there that have. Yeah.
But as far as people like selling their TVs and stuff like that, I've never seen anyone do that. Back in the day, if someone didn't have weed, you just shared your weed.
Yeah.
Because there were times where I didn't have any, my buddy didn't have any, and we'd share, which is how it went.
Now, I wish I could say that I have not witnessed any crimes when it comes to marijuana. I definitely would not call them violent.
What would you call them?
Like stealing, you know what I mean? Like people will go inside and rob somebody of all their weed and stuff like that. And again, like when it comes to violence, I don't know of any of my friends or anybody. And again, I had a lot of friends in high school who smoked weed. I had a lot of friends who, after high school, they smoked weed. Never heard any stories of people being robbed at gunpoint of their weed. Maybe other stuff. So on to the third topic, we've got, it will screw up the economy.
Well, that's crazy.
Actually, correction. Let's talk about it. That might not be that crazy.
Okay. So what's one of the things that they say that, why is this going to be crazy?
So, Calm, again, Citizens Against the Legalization of Marijuana, they say that for every $1 collected in taxes for alcohol and tobacco, $14 is spent to repair social damages caused by their use. And they're assuming that, if marijuana was legalized, the same thing would be evident. So, in terms of social damages, I don't know what they mean by social damages, but I could assume that they're talking about, like people who get addicted or who want to stop, and we'll just say damages in general. That they're saying it causes more harm than it does help.
Now, are they saying it gets caused and the state's paying for it, or is it something where me and you are paying for it because you caused some damages to my property?
That's a great question, because that's the only statement I got from them. I wish they clarified a little bit more, but in terms of they're saying it's not worth it because you lose more money than you do make, or the country will.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about that?
I mean, just in 2017, not tax, but just as far as profit goes, Colorado made $1.51 billion off medical and recreational cannabis.
Billion? Is that with
billion.
a B?
Billion. But there's also the fact that people... Have you seen all the shops that keep popping up of like,
yeah,
they have farms that you can go visit. They have B&Bs that are just completely surrounded, or not surrounded by, but their whole point is like, let's get high, let's go do this. Gyms are popping up, and the gym's whole focus.
Oh, I did see a video on that. People like getting high and then working out and doing yoga and stuff.
And you can smoke there and do that kind of stuff.
Absolutely wild.
Yeah. Tour buses, like I mentioned. I mean, people are making a ton of money off of this.
So basically what you're saying is that it's like totally renewing tourists and tourism in general, because it's like now you could visit Colorado, but now you could visit Colorado high.
And then there's
everything you could do beforehand will give you weed during the entire time.
There's also all the things of like how much they're making off just taxes. So just tax revenue in 2014 was $67 million. Just off tax, license, and fees for the shop owners.
Really? And that's in Colorado alone?
Yeah.
And how?
In 2018, so this year, from January to July, $153 million made off tax and licensing and fees.
Colorado's doing well.
They're doing very, very well.
Colorado's doing well. Now, here's the thought for you.
They tax it pretty high. The sales tax on it is 2.9%.
Really? See, I don't know anything about that. See, actually, like, I haven't even looked into stuff like that. Like,
they tax it quite a bit,
and
which is
people are still buying it.
People are still buying that shit. There's also all the money they're making off, which I don't know how they would track it, but people moving to the state of Colorado and Washington and Oregon and all these other places.
Yeah.
Like, people are flooding these areas.
So here's a thought. what if the only reason that economy is booming is because of all the people, like you said, are moving there, right? So if it was legalized across the entire nation, right, that wouldn't happen. I mean, people would stay right where they're at because now people are
That is
swarming.
true.
People are swarming to Colorado because it's legal there.
You ever been to Colorado, though?
I have not been to Colorado.
It is
no.
beautiful. If you like being outdoors, Colorado is a paradise. The couple times I've been to Colorado, I would love to live there. But with the green rush hitting, it is getting crazy, crazy expensive to live there. So the little towns in Colorado are starting to boom as well because of that.
Now, again, so now you're saying that it's harder to live in Colorado because the price of living is going up.
It's just getting more expensive.
So if it was legalized across the country, it would go right back down because, you know,
I think it would probably level out. I think,
it'd probably level out.
Mm-hmm.
So the explosive economy or the explosion in, growth and stuff within the economy in Colorado and in those states that are legalizing it for recreational use, it's probably because people are just swarming there because it's legal there.
That is true.
And
people are swarming there to either enjoy the weed, start new businesses, start new lives. You know, they finally have a chance to try something new.
And again,
you get a lot of people that are starting out being the first-time entrepreneurs moving there, and they're spending a lot of money to do it. You know, these licenses and fees are not cheap to do this stuff.
I gotcha.
So also the other thing is states are not going to want to give this up now that they've given it because they're making so much money in tax revenue. These guys are just as addicted as heroin addicts are because of the amount of money that's coming in.
So all in all, I personally think it would help the economy. You know, this argument saying that it's going to destroy the economy, I would kind of need a little bit more proof or even more arguments or sub-arguments about why it would destroy the economy. Just saying that's going to destroy it isn't that's not getting anywhere with me.
No. I think it'll drop sales in other places, though. I think you might see a drop in sales of alcohol.
Oh, for sure.
You're already seeing a drop in opioid-related deaths.
Wow. I didn't even think about that stuff.
Yeah.
You're right. Alcohol and tobacco will probably see a drop in tax revenue.
In Colorado, I know a lot of stuff we keep mentioning is Colorado, but for right now, like there's a lot of information in Colorado.
There's a Washington. lot of most of the studies because it's a brand new thing.
Well, they've had it since 2012.
Yeah.
So, I mean, 6 years is a long time to have this information.
Holy shit! It's already been 6 years.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
For Colorado, it's the Constitutional Amendment 64, which gave recreational use to the state. But interesting fact about opioid use, in 2014, they saw a drop 6.5% in opioid-related deaths. Now, 14 years prior to that, it had only been climbing and climbing and climbing and climbing. And it's finally taking a drop.
So people are
6.5% is a big drop.
People are dropping opioids and just moving straight on to marijuana since it's just right there and completely available. Yeah. And now they don't got to worry about being arrested for it and stuff like that. Yeah, I don't.
A lot of veterans are starting to really use it, and
for PTSD and stuff.
Yeah, and a lot of those veterans had a lot of addictions to pills just because the VA was just handing out pills.
So, the next counter argument that I have for you, according to and I'll be honest with you, it took me a long time to research counter arguments for this because everybody I talk to, everywhere I look, people are like, "Let's legalize it, hell yeah, whatever."
Yeah, there's no way I could have taken the
counter side. It's hard. I hate it.
It really is. You definitely have the harder job.
I'll bring you an argument, and it's like I already know that it's kind of a bullshit argument, but it still exists, and people still think this stuff. So I'm going to bring it out there for people to listen to. The next one is it will have a negative impact on people's health. Now this one's questionable. I might say that. Well, I can't even say that. I kind of agree because what else causes negative stuff to people's health that isn't already legal? Mm-hmm. You can't bring me that argument and then say, well, it's okay for alcohol and tobacco to be legal, and then say and marijuana is gonna be worse.
It could be how someone smokes that could be bad for their health. If someone's rolling joints and blunts, the paper, depending on what type of paper you use and stuff like that, that could be bad for you. How you're smoking it, I know if you vaporize it, it is the healthiest way for you, just because all you're doing is heating it up
and getting just the THC content.
Yeah, you put the bud in a box. It's got a heating element in it. You heat it up, and you smoke that.
Now, here's a good conflicting statistics. Now, again, back to CALM, the most ridiculous name for a committee of people against marijuana
that are probably very not calm.
They're saying that smoke from marijuana contains 4 to 5 times the toxins, irritants, and carcinogens as tobacco smoke. According to cannabis researcher Robert Melamede, marijuana is not as carcinogenic as tobacco. And I believe him, even though he's a cannabis researcher. I don't know how well we could believe, a guy in a lab coat that's smoking weed all day and saying, hey, weed's not as carcinogenic.
I mean, a lot of it comes from how they cure tobacco and all the chemicals they put in tobacco.
Because I'm pretty sure I see, commercials talking smack about tobacco, saying there's like hundreds of chemicals in it and whatever.
Yeah, there's a lot of bad stuff in it.
Now, here's a question. Would, let's say big tobacco takes over big marijuana. Like, let's say it's legalized across the whole nation. And then big tobacco kind of fades away. And then they're like you said, Marlboro already has their plan for if they make marijuana cigarettes.
Yeah.
So, let's say big tobacco takes it over. Do you think they would add a bunch of stuff that would make it slightly more addictive? Or
Oh, yeah. They would find a way to make it faster, bigger, and they would definitely ruin it.
You think they'd ruin it?
I think they would ruin it because they would put a lot of bad stuff in it. A lot of people that grow, they follow specific things to keep natural pesticides, keep bugs out, how they cure it, how they flush it towards the end. They work pretty hard at keeping everything as pure as possible and not putting bad stuff on it.
So ultimately, if that was the case, I would agree with them that it would have a negative impact on people's health. As if big tobacco took it over.
If corporations got into it, I think it would go bad for people's health.
I think that'd be really bad.
I personally, if I was allowed to with my job, I would not buy from big tobacco.
Oh yeah,
I would go to a mom and pop shop.
Oh yeah, and I would stick with vaporizers and stuff like that if I had the opportunity. Because
I personally prefer a giant bong, but
naturally. But in terms of health and stuff, though, I don't think that marijuana is nearly as bad as tobacco.
No.
So again, we have to say that these counter arguments are not very strong, in my opinion.
So Nevada went recreational, right?
Yeah.
So just in the first 6 months of Nevada going recreational, they made $30 million in tax.
Good Lord.
In 6 months.
6 months, you said?
6 months. That's pretty crazy, huh?
That's wild.
Like, the amount of money that's coming into all these states is just insane.
Definitely.
And these governors are not going to give this up, man.
Definitely not. I don't think the economy is going to be an issue. I think that, and again, going back to health, people saying that it's going to have a negative impact on health. People are saying that it's going to affecting your brain, right?
Mm-hmm.
And marijuana does affect your brain. And while it's being used, and they say it causes problems with developing brains, right?
I have heard that. I don't know too much on that personally, but I know that it does have that effect on when your brain's fully developing.
So here's a fun fact. For people who use it heavily at ages 16 to 17 for a period of 3 years, a region of the brain called the hippocampus, and I didn't do enough research, so I think that's a pretty funny name. They're saying that that's affected by that. And also I think that's a little bit specific, right, of a study. Like people who use it extremely heavily at an age of 16 to 17 for a period of 3 years, they say that your brain is affected.
Right.
And what that part of your brain is responsible for is short-term and long-term memory. So they did a test, right?
It also is the center for emotion and the nervous system.
Yeah. So people are saying that, it affects your emotions and like, you could be depressed from it and stuff. Like smoking marijuana can make you depressed. They did a test about memory. And they tested people who have never smoked before. And again, they tested the people who had smoked heavily from ages 16 to 17 for 3 years. Very specific. That really bothers me. It's like...
Well, that's when your brain's developing, man.
Well, I mean your brain doesn't stop developing until you're around like your mid-20s, right?
Right.
So... But
I mean, your brain's really picking up at that point in your life.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Now I understand a little bit. They're saying that your memory was affected, but like that bad that the people who smoked heavily, they remembered 18% less in whatever test they were doing. That they did 18% worse than the people who had never smoked before.
I think my wife would vouch that that's probably true with me.
You think so?
Oh, yeah.
Now,
For me to remember stuff, and I haven't smoked in probably 5 years,
yeah.
but my memory is definitely not as good as everyone else's. I have to write a lot of stuff down. So
I naturally don't
make
have
a
a
lot
good
of
memory,
notes.
so I mean, I guess I'd just be screwed. What's crazy to me is that they just did 18% worse, and that's for people who were smoking extremely heavily for 3 years straight.
Mm-hmm.
You know, who and what did they define as heavily, right? So
So I mean, smoking heavily can be described as like a bunch of different ways. You know, no one's probably smoking an ounce a day. You know, I mean, if you pick up like a quart size Ziploc baggie, it's roughly an ounce. I mean, it's probably gonna be a little bit more depending on how hard you fill it up, but like it's that much. You know, it's kind of a lot. So there's not really much way to really describe how much is heavily. I think you might describe heavily as, are you waking up and doing it?
if you're doing it all day type thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's something that like all day you're high. But like with drinking, people would describe excessive drinking, so like heavy drinking,
Yeah.
for 15 drinks in a whole week for a man, or 8 drinks or more a week for a woman. They would describe that as heavy drinking.
And so if we just kind of like transfer that over to marijuana, you would say 15, I guess.
Joints?
Joints?
Maybe?
I don't know. That's see,
Joints
again.
I think I'd put it in more terms of like a bowl,
Okay,
you know?
I gotcha.
So like
It's kind of
half a
tough
gram?
to make it, equal
Quarter gram?
in terms of, like what is too much smoking as of, in terms of, if it was alcohol instead. I still think that's a little bit difficult to kind of decide.
it is going to be difficult to decide. You know, it's not something that like there's exact numbers out there. Typically your friend will tell you you're smoking too much, you're drinking too much, you know?
Mm-hmm. So again, I mean, in terms of a negative impact on everyone's health,
Mm-hmm.
I could see the argument there. I could see where people are coming from.
Mm-hmm.
I still personally don't think that it's any different than what we already have out there. That's already unhealthy for you to do. A lot of stuff that people like to do is considered unhealthy. So
Yeah.
I don't see the problem with adding marijuana. I mean, as bad as that sounds, I mean, now that I'm saying it, it sounds like, all right, well, let's add to the negative health impacts out there.
Mm-hmm.
But still, no, I mean, so if you're saying that, marijuana should not be allowed because it adds to the negative impact on health,
Mm-hmm.
you might as well cut out alcohol, tobacco, and everything else fun in the world.
Yeah. Cheeseburgers will eventually kill you,
Oh
depending
my
on
God.
how
I didn't even
excessive
think about that.
you eat these cheeseburgers, you know? But
Cheeseburgers should be alcohol.
you could smoke all the weed you want, and it's not going to kill you. Mind you, if you smoke a pound in a day, I think it might. No one's going to get to a pound a day, man.
Yeah, no, there's no way. So let's move on to the fifth counter argument. And again, I'll say that it was really hard to find these counter arguments
Mm-hmm.
because there's not that many out there. The fifth one is, how would we regulate it? And how would we transfer it? And we actually just kind of talked about this. How would we transfer it in terms of, we already have measurements for, you're drunk because your BAC is 0.08,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the biggest thing is it should not be legalized because how could we regulate it? How could we,
As far as when someone's driving?
as far as when someone's driving, and that's a good example.
So they do have, there's the standard sobriety test to let you know. One guy actually made an app that you can use. 99 cents. It's on the Android system right now. But basically it has you do a few different tasks. One's going to be put a box inside a box, circle inside a circle. When something pops up, click it. As there's a circle on the screen, trace it with your finger. You know, a lot of things they'll say is your reaction time is slower when you smoke weed.
Gotcha.
Kind of thing when you know, they're like,
yeah,
what was that, dude?
Does it give you like a rating type thing? It's like,
yeah,
on a scale of 1 to 10, you're 9 high.
Yeah,
Or
it'll
like,
tell
holy
you,
shit,
like,
you're an 11. You should not be driving, or crazy stuff like that.
yeah.
Now,
They also do have vehicle simulators that they're using in Canada. The only problem is they'll test them when they're sober. They'll test them when they're high. They also do double-blind studies of there's weed in this.
yeah.
And there's not. Well, I'm sorry, that's placebo. Double-blind is the testers don't know and the testees don't know. But they're doing both of them, but that evidence will come out eventually. But even people that are completely sober sometimes have issues with driving these things.
So
I don't know if that just says they're a bad driver or if the simulator's too hard. I don't know.
So what you're saying is, there's an app out there, stuff like that. The problem with regulating it is, like, let's say you get pulled over and the cop thinks you're too high to drive. You're saying they should do this app. Like
the app is more of a personal thing. The app is going to be more of a personal thing.
I gotcha.
The police can do just a basic sobriety test.
Yeah.
And if you can function, you can function. Which people that have a few beers in them get away with that stuff all the time.
For sure. And again, but they still have that BAC content level that they always, the breathalyzer. They have the breathalyzer. That's always like a for sure thing and for sure determining factor on, all right, this point is you're getting arrested. This point is you're too drunk to drive, and now you're going to get charged.
Well, people refuse breathalyzers, and then by the time they get them to the police station, some time has passed, and then they pass. They're good.
Yeah.
Because time has passed. So it's a hard thing to determine, because the other thing with alcohol is you drink one beer and an hour it's out of your system. However, THC attaches to your fat cells, which is why it's in your system for so long. For someone my size, it's going to be in for a month. Someone your size, 2 weeks maybe.
Less than that, probably.
It's totally true. That part's going to be pretty difficult because it's going to be different for every person. But a basic sobriety test should tell a cop if someone's too high.
Again, I don't know if that's enough.
I don't feel like it's going to be enough.
I don't think that's enough to like.
Here's another thing.
Some people who are sober can't pass the beer sobriety, like the sobriety test.
Yeah.
For beer, like if I got pulled over and I just don't have very good balance, and I know I've watched people do videos of the sobriety test. They pull them out of their car, they make them do a number of things. Some of them extremely simple, and then one of them that I saw on YouTube, I can't remember exactly what it was, but I remember thinking to myself, I was like, I couldn't do that sober.
Alphabet backwards.
Yeah, that's retarded. Okay, you can't.
My wife can do it.
No way.
She's pretty quick at it too. For me personally, I have to start from the beginning and then go to the end, and then start from the beginning and then go to the end.
I can't.
It would take me quite a while.
I can't say the alphabet backwards, and I think that's a BS test and a BS weighted test if somebody's drunk.
Well, what's your opinion on someone getting behind the wheel after they smoke a joint? How would you feel about that?
Just in general.
Yeah.
Just in general, So some people.
So, like, say right now, I smoke a joint by myself.
Yeah.
And then I go get in the car.
I personally don't see a problem with it as long as you're not too high. You know what I mean? Because
is it the same thing as like some people can have like 2-3 beers and show no effect.
Absolutely.
However, some people will show a very big effect.
Yeah.
Like,
exactly. Now, I've known people to get high and drive. I've had friends who do it, and I was making jokes with people, and they're like, well, I was like, hey, so how do you tell if someone's high and they're driving? And, the person, they were like, well, are they going too slow? Like, that's about it. There's nobody who's high is going to be going extremely fast. Nobody's going to be making any crazy turns, stuff like that.
But everyone's different.
But everyone is different.
Everyone's different.
Yeah, everyone is
Some
different.
people drive very slow when they've been drinking. Some people drive very fast because they're very confident.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know.
I've known to drive high, they've all driven extremely slow. And I remember I was in the car with one of my friends who was driving, and I know for sure he was high. He stuck to the speed limit the whole time. He was just so adamant about, like, I really can't get pulled over. He was always just worried about it. And so all the personal experiences I've had is actually those people ended up being a little bit more on the safe side because they didn't want to be pulled over.
Yeah, because they know they smell.
Yeah, because they know they
That
smell. They
is
know
strong.
they don't want to go to jail, stuff
Yeah.
like that. So they're going to drive extremely careful. But in terms of, like, let's say you're straight smacked, like you're just stoned, right? I've never had any personal experiences with that or driven with anybody who was extremely stoned like that. But I could totally assume that those people who are extremely stoned would just go ahead and say, I probably should not get in the damn car. It's like, I can't figure out how to open the door. Or like, why is it taking me 30 seconds to open the car door? Oh, crap, it's locked. Oh, wow. You know?
Most of the time when you've had a lot of the devil's lettuce, you really just want food.
Oh, God, yeah, you're right.
You want to hit Jack in the Box and get
Yeah.
some food.
But that's where Grubhub comes in and stuff like
Exactly.
that.
There's a lot of food delivery places
there's a
that
lot
are
of food
probably
delivery
doing very
stuff.
well just from that.
So,
So about the traffic incidents, Colorado has seen a rise, 14%, and Washington has seen 4.6.
in
But could
accidents,
that be? Yeah, but could that be from a lot of new people that have never smoked are now smoking?
yeah, you're right. It could also be just because there's a whole lot of people going into Colorado, and they're just naturally a lot more people are there. The numbers are going to go up.
Exactly.
In terms of regulating it, I don't think that it poses that much of an issue. I think that if we put a lot of time and research into it, we can come up with ways to determine if somebody's too high. Like you said, somebody came out with an app.
Like I said, it's more for like personal use, for like you to
personal
know.
use.
But
And
they
that's
also
just
have
some
those
guy.
with drinking. You know, they got those things you can blow in that you can buy at the 7-Eleven and stuff.
But I do think that does pose an issue. You know, if it gets legalized across the whole nation, people are going to get high and drive. It's going to happen.
It already happens.
It already happens, and it's not legal. So I definitely think that would be a solid issue, but not enough of where it should not be legalized across the nation. Simply for that one reason, because if we just did enough looking into it, I'm sure we could come up with ways to define if somebody's too high.
Because a lot of these rural areas, no one was there. Like their numbers were very small in these towns. Now they're booming up because it's the cheaper parts of Colorado, but are now becoming more expensive. But as more people rush the area, more accidents are going to happen.
According to the Citizens Against Legalizing Marijuana, 1 of every 8 traffic fatalities in Colorado are marijuana related.
Fatalities like deaths.
Like deaths. And I would love to understand that. I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
So when you get in an accident like that, they drug test you, right?
I guess so. I mean,
So if it's someone that just smokes regularly in general anyways, if they do drug test that person, like I said, 2 weeks to 30 days, it's going to be in their system.
You're right.
So whether or not they got high that day, if they drug test them, they'll pop hot and they'll say it's weed related. And it might not be weed related at that moment.
I wish they gave more information for me to argue for them, but that's all I'm reading on their website. So the last counter argument that I actually have, and we can also go into the frequently asked questions on their website, and we could kind of look at those. But the last counter argument I have is it's going to negatively affect the environment and the electric grid, right? Now, you have that.
Okay, so the electric grid, if it's fully legalized across the land, I don't see electric going up too much. More people are going to grow it outdoors because they can grow it outdoors. They have the opportunity to do it. Yes, you get a different quality of bud, but if it's legal everywhere, a lot of people are probably just going to grow it outdoors because they can just throw it in their backyard in a pot and grow it. They might see a spike at first in electrical grid as well because new people are going to try to grow it. They don't want a 10-foot tall, 6-foot tall plant in their backyard. They have a closet they don't use. They're going to throw a couple plants in there. However, those people are going to come to find it's extremely difficult to grow indoors, especially on a small scale. Because you're basically playing Mother Nature in this small scale, controlling the humidity and the temperature and the light and where your light's at, CO2 levels depending on what you're really going for, getting air out of the room, cycling fresh air in. I mean, there's a lot that goes into this stuff. And people will jump into it thinking, it can't be that hard. They'll dump a bunch of money into it and then find out, this is not what I want to do. I'm just going to go to the store and buy some because I can. So there could be. You know, I can see both sides of it of like, maybe there won't be, maybe there will be. But people will definitely try it. There'll definitely be some new people out there that give it a shot.
In terms of environmental stuff, again, on the website, they're saying that one plant uses 6 gallons of water per day. They're saying that streams diverted to grow sites kill plants and animals downstream. Poisons and illegal fertilizers will be used, and they contaminate those streams and forests, and stuff along those lines. And again, just me, myself, and my personal belief, I'm pretty sure that's already happening.
So the 6 gallons
farms.
a day, that's kind of weird for me.
Yeah?
You know, it depends on, because I've had some friends that tried growing a long time ago, and when they were doing it, it depends on like what kind of scale you're using.
Gotcha.
I've never heard of one plant taking 6 gallons a day, especially to start off with. You know, so it's not going to be a per day thing because from what I've seen with my friends, you know, they start as a small plant. It doesn't need 6 gallons a day. It might need like a cup of water. And then as time goes on, it'll need more water. But especially if you're doing like indoor, well, from what I've seen in my research was it depends on like what you're really doing. You know, if you have a whole warehouse and they can get 10 feet tall, from what I saw, those guys are probably going to use a lot of water. But to say every plant is going to use 6 gallons a day, well, that's just not true. You know, everyone does different things. So from my research, that's completely false.
Yeah, I got you.
Not every plant is going to use 6 gallons a day.
And in terms of like the poison and stuff like that, you know, I think that, you know, farms already do that. You know, they use pesticides and stuff like that. Terrible stuff. Like a lot of chemicals is used in normal farming every day. So this argument to me is not that strong. It just isn't. And again, I hate to say it, you know, if marijuana was legalized, we're adding to the problem, because that's true in theory. You know, if we're saying that, well, marijuana should be legalized, even though, you know, poisons and illegal fertilizers and stuff like that are used. Well, the argument that I'm saying is that it's already used anyways in normal farming. So I'm like kind of flat out admitting we're adding to the problem.
It could.
But
I can't argue anything else.
But to me, I don't see it as that much of a problem, because if you're saying that marijuana is going to contribute that much to poisons and stuff like that, well, then we have to stop poisons everywhere else too.
There's plenty of people out there that want to do that.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure people won't have a problem with that either.
It's becoming very popular in the last 5 years to buy organic
stuff.
Yeah.
So again, I don't think that's a very, very good argument. Now, again, let's go ahead and go to the frequently asked questions. So, just to wrap everything up, on their website they say, why shouldn't marijuana be legalized? Marijuana is dangerous, psychoactive, addictive drug that impacts the brain. The marijuana of today is 15 to 40 times % stronger, which we already touched up on, than marijuana of the 1960s, 1970s time frame. Its use impairs judgment and perception and makes driving and operating machinery more dangerous. The brain isn't fully developed until about age 25, and marijuana impacts the brain development. Alarmingly, the vast majority of marijuana users are young adults and teens. Marijuana use increases the risk of psychosis, schizophrenia, depression, and thoughts of suicide. And as we previously mentioned, you know, we kind of agree with some of that, but not a lot of it. It definitely does impair your judgment to an extent, but not the extent that I think that the column is bringing to the argument. We already said that it affects your driving and operation of machinery, and the simple fix for that is like, all right, well, you can't be high while you're at work. You can't be high while you're driving. And again, people are still going to do that.
Well, they have the same thing with drinking, but people do it all the time.
You know, people are still going to do it no matter what, but those are simple fixes to me. It's like, all right, well, let's just make it like alcohol.
Yeah.
That's what I'm seeing with this, is that
it's this thing you can go buy at the store, and we all just kind of trust everyone to not do it and drive.
Yeah.
And do it and go to work. But yet people do it all the time. Did you hear that Canada went recreational across the country? Like
no way. Canada went across the entire country?
Across the country. It'll be in effect as of October 17th.
Ooh.
So, I mean, you could see it
people
coming.
People are going to be going to Canada a lot then.
Yeah. You could probably see it coming down to the U.S. the next 5 to 10 years, maybe. I don't know. It could be sooner than that. But I think they're going to be a big test to see what happens with them.
I gotcha.
I don't know if they tried to do legalizing in different regions and then went fully, or if they just went full on.
So, all in all, those are like the main counter arguments that we could kind of bring up to the discussion.
Mm-hmm.
For those who end up listening to this, please leave what you think about those counter arguments. If they're BS, if they're legit, and if we missed anything, be sure to let us know. So let's say that everything does just get legalized right now, right? How would it affect society? Do you think?
Like, if everything just went recreational right now?
Yeah, like right now. Like, would it?
I mean, there'd be a lot of people that were upset, and there'd be a ton of people that are super happy.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I think it would give a lot of businesses that are already established a chance to maybe add something new to their business. You get a karaoke spot. You can smoke weed in the karaoke spot.
Imagine if it's like a societal norm to be smoking weed out, and like let's say there's a designated smoking area. Now there's now you could smoke weed in those designated smoking areas. You know what I mean?
The same thing as drinking. You know
exactly. Yeah. You can go to any restaurant and just get some. Well, not maybe a restaurant, but like you can go to any place and they have bud there, and like maybe there's gonna be gas station bud, and it's around the world like gas station sushi.
Yeah,
it's gonna be known as just shitty weed.
Exactly.
That's so crazy to me for me to think about.
Someone will buy the Bam Bam in a pinch, but
exactly. So,
I think you'll also see probably a spike in food.
Oh my god, unbelievable!
The food industry will definitely get a spike.
Unbelievable spike. How do you think it would affect the black market / cartels?
I think it would definitely negatively affect them because what we were talking about with like electric grid and stuff like that, new people are going to try to grow their own stuff because they can and it's decriminalized. You know, you got a lot of people that garden. They're going to give it a shot. You're going to go to grandma's house. Right next to her petunias is going to be a little weed plant. She's like, I'm trying it out. Whatever.
I think we'd have a hell of a lot more of a calmer, more relaxed country in general. I think people would see like the bigger picture on things. They kind of see through a lot of the politics and a lot of the stuff that we, watch on the news and stuff. I think, which could also be a bad thing if people don't watch the news, don't pay attention to that stuff anymore. Mm-hmm. Give more people free reign to kind of do stuff without the whole rest of the country knowing about it. All that other stuff. So the cartels, you said, would do worse.
I think they might do worse. However, they do have a very big hand in the weed game now anyways.
Do you think that it would... Because I think, me personally, I think at most they would start selling it at a lower price than what our government does.
They would really have to.
They would have to.
You see that in the states that do sell it now.
Mm-hmm.
Like before you'd go to a medical shop and the prices are through the roof. However, since legal dispensaries are popping up everywhere, the prices are going down drastically.
Gotcha.
To buy bud.
Yeah.
There were one state was doing $1 per gram deal, that's crazy cheap, and they actually got in trouble for it because apparently that's too low.
I got
you. Can't
I don't know anything about the laws about it, and I think we should do a little bit more research because I don't know. Because I've never been to one of those states. I've never bought marijuana legally or anything like that.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, we're definitely gonna do a second episode on this because there's a lot of stuff that
way too much
we really didn't cover that we can really dig deeper in.
Bringing it back to society and other stuff like that, how would it affect religions?
I think it could positively affect religions. I think that people would. I think it could positively affect it.
I think the majority of the people against marijuana are very religious.
Depends on what kind of. Depends on what kind of spectrum they're on with the religion, because there's all different. There's all different types of branches of Christianity.
Yeah.
You've got the hardcore Bible thumpers that really love that thing, but then you also have the people that are like, "Look, man, I'm just here to do my own thing. I believe. If you don't believe, that's okay."
Yeah.
But you get the people that'll get real in your face. But the people that don't, they're both Christian. Mm-hmm. They just have different kinds of beliefs.
I know that in just doing my research, I remember reading that sometime in I want to say the 1500s or 1600s or something like that. I can't remember. Don't quote me on that date or those dates. The Pope actually said, he was like, marijuana is the medicinal use of marijuana is satanic, and we should not be doing it. Nobody should be doing anything with it. So Catholics and Catholicism in general totally denounce the use of marijuana. So I think that, again, if it was legalized, now do you think all of the Catholic people would just be like, all right, I'm not going to do it because it's a sin? Or do you think it would just be kind of a normal thing, and then those people would go to church and be like, all right, Father, I've sinned?
I think what would happen is it would start with one person, and it would spread from there. All it takes is one person in a group of friends to be like, hey, this isn't as bad as you think it is.
And then it can spread from there. At the church? Do you think it, not at the church maybe per se, but like it would just be a normal thing that the church no longer denounces?
I'm not sure if they wouldn't denounce it. I'm just talking about the goers. Gotcha. The people that are going to the church. Like I said, I think it would start with one person and then spread from there. It's not something that Monday, everyone in the U.S. can get high. By Tuesday, everyone's getting high. It's going to take some time.
So what about in terms of politics?
Mm-hmm.
What if in the future, sometime like way in the future after marijuana is fully recreationally legal, somebody runs for office and they're like, I've never smoked marijuana ever. And then they don't do well because they don't do, you know what I mean? Like it's just totally switched up. Whereas people who are for marijuana, they don't get a lot of votes, and people are still iffy about it, but it's still looked down upon. It's still looked down on.
I think they might not do well just because most people know they're lying.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
I don't think anyone will look down on them for not
especially in
weed.
the future. Especially in the future, after it's been legalized and stuff like that, for someone to say something like that, it would kind of be a lie. But I think they would be looked down on, kind of like a reverse thing that goes on with society. Like now, it's the societal norm to be able to smoke marijuana, and for you to be against it, like screw you.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Kind of similar to like if somebody today would be like, all right, I'm running for politics, or I'm running for the office, I would like to be a state senator, et cetera, all that stuff. And I disagree with alcohol. I want alcohol to go away. The world would lose their mind.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think it would be something like that. And I think it would be normal. Like, imagine our president smoking weed,
Mm-hmm.
And it would be just...
Well, Obama smoked cigarettes.
Obama smoked cigarettes?
Yeah.
I didn't know
when he first got in office, yeah. I think it was Newports.
I had no idea about that.
I don't know if he did the whole 8 years, but I know for a while he did.
I really had no idea about that. See,
everyone's got their vice, man.
Yeah, I think that could be a societal norm, and especially in politics. Now, like all things, and I know we said it earlier too, like I said, big tobacco could take over, and it could be the new big marijuana, right? There's a lot of corruption that happened with big tobacco, in terms of politics, with lobbyists, kind of like there is now. That's not over. There's a lot of corruption today. And I think that, once marijuana becomes a societal norm, I'm pretty sure that there's going to be a lot of corruption with that, with the business and the investments.
Oh, yeah. For a second, I thought you were saying, like, corruption's going to go away. And I was going to say, no.
No. I think it would make corruption not worse, but I think it would just be more... It's going to happen with this, too, with marijuana.
Yeah. I don't think it'll change the amount of corruption. It'll stay the same.
It'll stay the same, and... It's still going to be there, unfortunately. But I do think it would happen with marijuana. Marijuana is not going to be this perfect thing. I think that it's going to be great, but just know that in the background there's stuff happening that people are just like making millions and millions of dollars. And, a lot of the laws that are being made are, going to be around that or whatever people want with their own, ideals. I think marijuana would definitely be one of those things. I think that could be happening right now, and nobody just knows about it.
Yeah, we probably just don't know about it. I know a lot of the tax money from the states, it goes to schools, fixing the roads, homeless programs, things like that. But when you have $100 and something million in tax coming in, how much of it is it really going to that?
Yeah.
Are they using it for their own personal gain? Or not, which you hear about all the time in government, of so-and-so took X amount of money for himself. He bought himself a boat or a house or whatever, Yeah.
What if there's secretly a monopoly going on type thing? Like, the people are just going, like those billionaires, they like see that marijuana is going to be legal. So they're going through and they're investing in all these pot farms, or like they're buying these pot farms and, every one of them type thing. And so now once it gets finally legalized, they have like complete and total control over all of the marijuana farms. You know what I mean?
I don't think that's happening.
You don't think so?
No.
I don't know.
I don't see these farmers that have been doing it for this long just giving it up.
I got you. Well,
because
I mean, like,
a lot of the big ones, like if you watch some of the documentaries on them and stuff, a lot of them absolutely love what they do, and they've been doing it for a very, very long time, and they're totally against a corporate coming in and doing that kind of stuff. I think you'd find a hard.
So if Big Tobacco or Marlboro or anything, again,
I think you'd find it very hard that someone would just give up their farm that they've been working on that long.
I gotcha. So if Big Tobacco came in and was like, I'll give you this much money if you just give me the rights to your farm, stuff like this. Like I said, they could take over, become big marijuana, and then we just have like a replay of what happened.
Yeah. Everyone's got their price, man. So who knows?
I don't know. That's something to think about, though. Again, I think that I don't have a problem with marijuana being legalized across the entire nation recreationally. No. I don't think that...
If it was, do you think that certain jobs should still drug test for it? So say truck drivers, doctors, so truck drivers, medical personnel, so just drivers in general.
Again, I don't think you should
FBI,
be high on the
stuff
job.
like that.
I don't think you should be high on the job, but I think you should be allowed to do it, kind of like you're able to drink, you know? And that brings us right back to the whole, you know, how do you test to see if somebody's not on the job? I'm pretty sure you can get like saliva tests, like they swab your mouth to see if you're high, like, and you smoked within the past couple hours. Don't quote me on that. I'm pretty sure that's the case. But again, you know, I think that it should be legalized.
I think so too. I totally agree.
I'm sticking by it. If anybody doesn't agree with that, please say something about it. I'd love to hear your argument for it. Hopefully we addressed all the arguments that we could, or we got everywhere that we could.
I felt like we were pretty unbiased about, you know, we shared both sides. It's just you and me.
Yeah, definitely just me. I know you being unbiased.
Yeah, I know, like I was saying earlier, you definitely had the harder job of saying why it was bad, because there is a lot of good out there for it.
I think it's good that we brought as many counter arguments as we could, because after like 3 days of research, that's really what like the majority of what I could find is stuff that was related to that. Yeah. So
I definitely don't think it's going to go backwards from here. Like I touched on earlier, these governors love this money.
Oh yeah,
it's not going to go backwards. There's no way it's going to go backwards.
I think give it how long do you think it'll take? I think within the next 10 years we're going to see a drastic change. Within the next before 2025, I think we'll see a difference.
I think we will too.
I think it'll be like
they're picking up more states, man.
Because it is still illegal federally, right? But states are saying screw you.
Yeah, the states are picking it up.
Yeah. I think it's going to take a long time for the federal government to make that change. And so I'm pretty sure also, like, I'm pretty sure people are still getting in trouble legally, like, for that, right? Like, shops are getting shut down by the federal government.
I know it was a big problem for a long time with the medical shops. They are still raiding recreational shops every once in a while, but I haven't heard too much on it lately. But I definitely can't say it's completely stopped. But it was a big issue for a long time.
See, I don't know.
Well, the federal government can come into these states and say, nay.
They can do that.
Because it is still federally illegal.
I think the next president's going to be fully responsible for legalizing it everywhere.
I can see that.
I don't think it'll happen under Trump. Because I'm pretty sure, again, I hate to label stuff, but, you know, more so on the Democratic side is what people like marijuana and they're all for it. More on the Republican side, people aren't. So I know Donald Trump, you know, says he's a Republican and stuff like that. So I doubt he'd do that because he might lose his, you know, support from his own side. But definitely the next president, maybe the next Democratic president. Because, I mean, under Barack Obama, that's when all this stuff was really happening, right? Yeah.
Obama was pushing for a lot of this stuff.
Oh, yeah. See, definitely. So probably the next Democratic president we have, it's going to be, you know, pushed more towards fully legalizing it everywhere.
Yeah.
I could see that for sure.
Hey, it'll be interesting. It'll be very interesting to see what happens.
So this is going to have to be for sure part 1 of part 2. There's just way too much to talk about when it comes to marijuana and other drugs and stuff like that. We could talk about, you know, brief history of marijuana and all that other stuff. We could include a lot of things with this topic. So please leave some feedback for us, and we'll talk about it in the next episode that when we discuss marijuana.
We're definitely going to get some more facts for you guys, and definitely taking the opinions that everyone gave. Just so you guys know also, while we were doing this episode, we got picked up on Google Play, so you can now listen to us on iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, and Google Play. Spotify and iHeartRadio are soon to come. Also soon to come is we're going to be working on getting some cameras in here so we can actually do like a Facebook Live thing to get more interaction with people, and then so we can also do YouTube videos as well. So please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at WYO Podcast. Like everything, help us get our name out there, and also give us a lot of feedback. We're also interested in what we can do better. I really want to get this as best as we can and get it rolling. So thanks for listening, guys.